Well, I know you're all here to see Ryloth and it's completed in full glory, so let's not waste any time and get straight into the finale of building Ryloth. So before I can call this mock complete, there are a few things I need to clean up and tweak. And I'm starting by increasing the length of the bridge because I feel like the current length is a little too short and it doesn't really look like it's supposed to be a bridge. Now, if I had an infinite amount of money and time, I would definitely build the whole bridge and make it fit an ATTE, but I can't really do that, so I'm giving it just a little bit of extra length, and I do think it makes it look a bit more recognizable like a bridge. Alright, I finally received the parts that I need to build up the 5 tents that will be sitting in front of the Capitol walls. I say all the parts, but that's not entirely true. I was stupid and underestimated the amount of pieces I would need, and then I also completely forgot to order another piece, which is annoying because I had it on my wanted list in Bricklink, but I must have somehow deleted it from my cart by accident. Anyways, those pieces should arrive in time. Cutting it a bit close though. They got delayed until the literal day before I leave for Brick Fair, Virginia. I swear, somehow I always cut it so close right before the conventions. The same thing happened with Umbara last year, but if it doesn't arrive somehow, I don't really have any other options. I also wanted to revisit the black borders, specifically the slopes section that's next to the terrain. Originally going into this mock, I wanted to give the side of it a sort of cutout look where you can see the layers of dirt and stone underneath it, and I have enough leftover pieces that should achieve a similar effect, although a lot smaller. So I flattened the black border and I'm using the same 3 colors that I've used in all the dirt and rock details, and those are dark tan, medium nougat, and dark orange. I would have liked to lower the black border even further in order to show more of the layering, but just like the bridge, it was a limitation of time and money. I definitely prefer it to what I originally had, and I went ahead and did the same thing on the other side. And now it's time to finally complete the last portion of the terrain that I have left to do. And if you don't know, during these segments I've been answering some Q&A questions. And we do have one question for this finale from RoboNut, and he says, I know a lot of questions that you answer are LEGO related, but as a fellow YouTuber I had to ask a YouTube related one. How do you go about making your videos more engaging? Do you utilize analytics at all? First of all, I am open to any types of questions of any topic, and I find this one very interesting. But I do hope you all find these videos engaging. There are a couple things I do consider when making these videos, such as including things that I myself would find interesting while watching somebody else's mock series. So that's why I try to go in depth with some of the techniques that I am using. And in terms of my analytics, I have really stayed away from looking at them until this build series specifically. One of my main goals during the series was to enhance the editing of my videos and the viewer experience. The main analytic that I found the most useful to look at is audience retention, because YouTube rewards videos when viewers watch the whole video. So for example, I found that a large portion of my viewers would skip the time lapses as soon as I stopped speaking, which ended up being a problem when I had nothing to talk about. And that's the whole reason why I started these Q&A segments, and it has actually increased retention compared to when I would just put music over that portion of the time lapse. So I definitely found that analytics are helpful, but that's not all that's important when making a video. So I'm going to link a video in the description that I found extremely helpful when creating a unique identity for your videos and channel. It's a bit long, but I think it's the best video out there. And that's the majority of the terrain complete. I say majority because there's still this little area that I need to fill in. I'm saving this area till the end because I need to tear up some of those tiles underneath. And I need to remove the entire building right here in order to get to those tiles. So once the Capitol is packed and out of the way, I can go ahead and quickly fill in that gap. It shouldn't take too long. So what I recommend if you yourself is transporting a large Lego build is to just use a buttload of bubble wrap. So what I basically do when packing base plates is I put the base plates in a box, and then a layer of bubble wrap, and then another layer of base plates, and then more bubble wrap, etc, etc. But so far that strategy hasn't failed me, so I'm just going to keep doing that for the rest of the mock. But I've also heard that saran wrap is also very useful. So I was able to pack everything up in about 5 boxes. I'm pretty happy with that. That's a good amount of boxes to transport. I found these boxes, which I actually found very useful for transporting base plates. It's pretty much able to fit 2 base plates side to side. If these base plates were a lot shorter, I'd probably be able to fit them all in 1 container, but since they're pretty tall, I had to use 2. I'm hoping that nothing breaks too much, but with everything packed and ready for the convention, we can finally be on our way to Brick Fair, Virginia. So So one of the most time-consuming parts about bringing a large-scale mock to a convention is always the setup process. And the tables at Brickfair just suck for large mocks like this. All of the tables are so uneven, and you can see me trying to use cardboard to even out the table's height a bit more, but it was never perfect. Especially since the tower is so heavy, it just ended up compressing the cardboard, so it didn't even give much extra height. But luckily, so far there weren't any major breaks or damage to any of the build just yet. But just as I was about to finish putting all of the base plates together, I got a little distracted and started talking to some of the boys, so we can just fast forward through this part. So you know how I was just talking about nothing being broken? Well, I wasn't as lucky with the walls of the Capitol. A lot of it had been pretty much completely shattered, so I had to spend some time piecing them back together. But once they were back together, I was able to put them in place. It was probably just a consequence of how I built some of the sections of the wall, but it wouldn't be one of my mocks without a bit of jankiness to it. So after 8 months of work, here is the Battle of Ryloth. Going to do a bit of an in-depth overview of the entire mock and all the details that I've included. So we're going to begin at the bridge where the Republic forces are charging into battle from. So we have 2 blurgs which are being ridden by the freedom fighters of Ryloth. The blurgs are designed by me as well as the ATRTs that I've used in this mock. But the bridge does need to be held up by a couple of transparent pillars, and that's because of the transparent nature of the bridge itself. I couldn't have any internal structure. But moving up beyond the bridge brings us to the main battle where the Separatists and Republic forces are clashing together. Along the main road that leads to the entrance of the Capitol, the bulk of the droid forces meet with a large group of the newer style of Phase 1 clone troopers. I used this style since they were the most convenient really. Also, I just kind of prefer this look compared to the animated style of clone troopers. I don't know if that's really a hot take or not, sorry. But in this group we have Mace Windu, who has just sliced a droid in half and is using the Force to push back another group of droids. Fighting alongside him is his clone commander Pons, who is using the butt of his rifle to knock down a battle droid. He seems to have learned that punching them does not work. Commander Pons, as well as all of the custom Twi'leks, are from Engineerio Customs, and I'll link to them in the description of the video because so far I've had a good experience with their products. I really tried to give as many of the figures their own little unique scenes, so there's one clone with a minigun that's just mowing down some droids. On the left side of the battlefield, there's a group of ATRTs that are making their ways toward the Separatist AAT. The AAT is attempting to flank the Republic forces from the left side with a group of commander droids. I specifically like the one that's riding on the side of the tank. I think that's fun. We also have 2 of these tents which the Separatists use to put the civilians of the Capitol in, and I've hidden a little mini kit behind this one. Unfortunately, the ATRTs were caught off guard, and one is being taken out by the tank as the pilot is flung into the air out of his walker, and you can see the other ARF trooper beside him looking in shock. And now as we make our way to the right side of the battlefield, we once again have 3 more of these tents which are surrounded by 2 droidicas and a group of super battle droids who are flanking the Republic forces from the right side this time. One clone trooper got quite unlucky and is being blasted by one of the droidicas, while a few of the other clone troopers are trying to get out of the way of the blaster fire. We also have 2 more of these blurgs. The one in the front is being ridden by Cham Syndulla, the leader of the freedom fighters, and his blurg is in the process of eating a battle droid. That must not taste very good. And in the back here you can see a little Gonk droid having the time of his life sliding down this column, which apparently doubles as a slide. But you can also see that beyond the battlefield there is a tunnel leading into the Capitol, and you can see that I have this door design which I'm using a flex tube to kind of get this curved section at the top, and I'm doing the same thing with the frame around the entranceway. Moving upwards along the main tower, you can see inside this little control room, and there are 2 ARF troopers, which in this episode they need to go in order to turn on the bridge to allow for the rest of the Republic forces to cross through the bridge. But as we move up even further, you can see all of the curves that I had to achieve in order to capture an accurate look to what we see in this Clone Wars episode. Now in the middle of this tower, there were some issues I had during transportation, so it doesn't exactly line up perfectly as it did at home, which is unfortunate, but it's just one of the issues with transporting such a large MOC, so that's bound to happen. I've also included a group of STAP speeders who are flying in from above and firing down on the Republic forces. I got these designs from Brick Vault, which is the same place that I got the designs for the AAT and Droidicas as well. Making our way to the right side of the wall, you can see that I've tried to include a variety of foliage and vines up against the base of the wall. But I do have to give a shout out to M5 Builds for letting me borrow some of his olive green stems because these are so dang expensive now. They're like $1 a piece at this point. It's just ridiculous. So thanks to him for letting me borrow some of them for this MOC. But as we make our way up the wall, we can see 3 clones who are trying to scale up the wall. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's going to be working out for them because there are some droids at the top who have spotted them, are going to try to shoot them down. And so that the rest of the wall merged well with the tower, I just used trial and error to figure out which wedge plates and slopes would best match the angle. On the other side of the wall, I want to point out this curved column. I designed this by using flex tube on the inside and just attached each of these subsections, and the curve is guided along using wedge plates on the side. On the very top of this one section of the wall, there are some familiar faces from my Umbara MOC from last year. So these clones are just chilling out, eating some food, and enjoying watching the battle. So that's the entirety of the front section of this MOC, but there are 2 rooms on either side of the MOC that I wanted to take a closer look at. On one side, I've added a little prison, but I based the design on the prison we see in the Bad Batch series. We actually revisit the capital of Ryloth in a couple of episodes. We find out that there is a prison there, so I thought it would be logical to assume that the Separatists might have clone prisoners in these cells. But I also really wanted to include Delta Squad from the Republic Commando video game as they go and rescue a few of their fellow clone prisoners. But I've always really loved that video game, so I really wanted to include some sort of reference to it. Now originally, if you've been watching the series from the beginning, you know that I was considering building a landing pad where Wat Tambor was loading treasure onto a ship that he had stolen from the civilians. But unfortunately, I did not have the time to do that, so instead I opted to build this little treasure room where Wat Tambor is ordering a couple droids to carry all of the treasure out. I try to throw in a lot of Easter eggs into this room, such as the Revenge of the Sith poster, and the droids are actually carrying the Ark of the Covenant from Indiana Jones, which in itself was an Easter egg in the episode that I am basing this MOC on. But I also wanted to show you a little look behind the scenes of the internal structure of this whole MOC. And if you haven't seen the whole series, I do have videos detailing the exact construction of this whole MOC. You will be able to find a playlist of the series on my channel page. And you may have think that we have now covered everything on the MOC, but there is one last thing that we need to see, and that is how the MOC looks with all the convention lights off. This was my first time really incorporating lights into a large scale MOC. And while I do feel like there are a few places that I wish I could have incorporated more light, I still think it turned out amazing. Lighting always just adds the last finishing touch to any MOC. The environment feels so much more lived in. And that was really one of my major goals with this MOC. I really wanted to add more life and vibrance into it, not only through the lighting, but also through the colors that I've used in the terrain. Okay, I'm back from Brick Fair, and it feels a little empty in this room without Ryloth. And I know some of you are probably waiting for some sort of teaser for whatever my next MOC is going to be, but unfortunately that's going to probably have to wait for a separate update sort of video that's going to come out probably like a week or 2 depending on how busy I am in the next coming weeks. But yeah, thank you so much for everyone who joined me on this journey of building Ryloth. I hope to see you all back for whatever my next project is going to be. That's going to be it for the finale of building Ryloth. Let me know what your favorite part of the build was in the comments, and have a great day everyone. Goodbye.